Well, greetings, everybody, and welcome to January 26, 2026. I am Paul Blum, and thought I would do this vlog and talk about recent things that have been going on. It's a cloudy day here in Leesburg, Florida. We are expecting 2 weeks of cold weather, and in previous vlogs, I have done posts about how cold weather is very rare here, at least in the numerical sense that most people in the United States would realize it being. It's going to be below normal the next 2 weeks. We are expecting Sunday, when I have to do my next slide shift, it to be in the 20s here, and that's kind of a rare event. Happens every once in a while, but I'll go on as I do this log entry and talk about that a little bit more. Church was good. I tried to sleuth with the head of the AV department what the problem was with Doug's iPad, but she gave me a quick brush off, and it was kind of close to 10 o'clock anyway. But I'm kind of at a point where, I'm fighting this battle again that I have been fighting now for most of the last year working in the AV department, where I'm making an effort to fit in, but I already do fit in, and I'm just thinking I need to make some sort of change. And being somebody who is on the high end of autism and has Asperger's syndrome, I tend to go with whatever the logic of the situation is. And just forgive me here as I have a little bit more of my coffee. Cannot function without coffee. We had another shooting in Minnesota where another armed individual thought it was a wise idea to try to disarm somebody with ice and paid the ultimate price. And my apologies to their family for what they are going through. But surprise, surprise, it was another instance where a Caucasian was the one murdered. And instead of it being a woman named Good, it was a guy named Pretty, oddly enough. Now, critics will again say, if they haven't said it already, they may already have, that this was another man of privilege because he was white. More proof that if Trump just let ICE win, the anti-ICE crowd win, and if they just backed off from this, uh, the people who would gain from that, the first people that would be casualties when they take over would be Caucasians. And it's not a racial thing. This is something that's already happening in the world. It's happening in Europe. And me being three-quarter Irish American, I note the fact that this is taking place in Ireland. And there have been social media videos of the past year or so to prove the case. And then what they're doing is they're just replacing a voter base who is somewhat wise to the scheming of the government, the powers that be, and they're replacing the voter base with a new one. They're doing this in Europe right now, and soon they're going to do this in America. It's already happening in America, as you see Ella in the background. I've opened up the window shades a little bit because she likes to play with the shades. So if I give her something to look at, I think that will appease her a little bit. But my point is they'll just switch voter bases out, and you know if you're Caucasian, you're really going to be a loser on the deal. So we had another man who died championing a cause that will ultimately do him no good. So all that out of the way, let me just answer some AI questions briefly. AI usually has the best questions for me, and if any of you watching these videos have questions for me, I want this blog to grow organically. I don't really tell people that I do these blogs. I just let people find them, and that's how I want this to grow. I don't like to advertise what I say. I just like when I do things online on social media. I just like my audience to grow organically. If you want to find me, I figure you are going to find me, and that's kind of how I do things on social media. I don't. I'm not somebody who's wild about getting an audience that wants its own thing. I just tried to do my own thing, and just blaze my own trail, and that's it. So the first question I had was about my eye exam being canceled last week. And that was my decision, by the way. Let me just take some more coffee here. I made that decision because I did not want to do the same thing twice. Um, my insurers, who are Sunshine Health, if you're on Medicaid, that's what you get. That's pretty much what you get. You're stuck with them. It's pretty much how it works here in Florida if you are on welfare. And one of these days, I want to get off of welfare. Maybe by the time I die, that will happen. I'm 54 now. I'll be 55 in September. But I wanted to do something once so everybody knows what I'm doing. If I just appease my insurers and go to this optical outlet store that would be just next door, they wouldn't know my medical history. Whereas if I go to Clark Clinic, they do know my medical history. They do know I have a history of diabetes, as you hear Ella meowing in the background. Hi, sweetie, wherever you are. I don't know where you are right now, but I'm doing a blog here, so just let me do my thing. I would trust the devil I do know as opposed to the devil I don't know. So I'm gonna bite my tongue and go down to the Clark Clinic in about 3 weeks. Why do I check lyrics at church? I was mentioning that last week when I was explaining what I do when I do the slides. I'll be doing the slides again this Sunday. I think I already said that. I know I repeat things, but if you repeat things, that just shows you that it's top of mind, I guess. Two reasons. One, the way Doug wants to do a song, my pastor, might change with time. He might want to do the song a certain way, 6, 9 months ago, but maybe he wants to revisit the song and he wants to do it a little differently now. And you listen to songs from like the 80s and 90s, and there are all these different versions of the same song. One song that sticks out in my head for having a very notable long version that's not being played was Total Eclipse of the Heart, 1983, and that was Bonnie Tyler. And that was a song, most of the time, if you heard it on a radio station, you heard the short version of it. But there was a third verse of the song that didn't get played unless the DJ had to go take a leak or something, or had to use the restroom, and they would play the 7-minute version of the song, which was actually a little bit better than the 4.5-minute version that most people heard. Another reason why I would want to check lyrics is the slides may not be in chronological order. A song might go back to a chorus and a bridge, but it's at one point in the PowerPoint, and you have to, if you're sitting there running the lyrics, running the slides, you have to make a split-second decision. Okay, we've gone back to a certain point in the song, but where is it? So that's why we look at lyrics and change lyrics. And by we, I mean me, because I don't think anybody else really does it. Why was Harry rehomed? I don't know if he was rehomed, to be honest with you. I lost contact with him when I was hospitalized in 2021, when I had to have my toe amputated. One morning in October of 2021, I woke up and one of my big right toe was black. So I hemmed and hawed for like 2 or 3 days. I really didn't. I didn't know when I would be back to the house. I figured I would set Harry up with as much water and food as I could. And what I did was I cleaned my toilet, and I cleaned it real good. And I just opened it up so if Harry needed water, he could go there. I know. I should have taken care of him. I didn't have the time to take care of him. I didn't know how long in that circumstance I could continue on without getting sepsis and without dying. So it was just something, I figured the bomb was going off and you better do something now. And I had to make a split-second decision. So my landlord's son came, got Harry, sent him to the ASPCA, and he's gone to history. And if you saw videos I was doing in 20, I was very sad about that. And I was in a situation where if I didn't do something about my toe, I wouldn't be here talking to you now in 2026. So, that's what I did. I'm not proud of it. Believe me, I wish I had done a lot of things back then better than I did, but you live and you learn, I guess. And AI was asking me, this will be the final question I take. What about Challenger? Why did I bring up Challenger? Which was 40 years ago this coming Wednesday, and my dad passed 5 years to the day after Challenger, by the way. So that was now 35 years ago, amazingly. Cold weather happens here in Florida very rarely, and if it gets into the 20s, and that day I think it was in the mid 20s, I was a freshman at Largo High School, and it's very rare for a cold to last very long. Here in Florida, when it does, like 2 weeks, we're gonna have 2 weeks of very cold weather here, and that's a very rare event indeed. Cold weather had a very major role in the Challenger disaster, to everyone's admission. 40 years later, and there was this commission that looked into the accident. It was called the Rogers Commission. As a frog in my throat hits me. Hang on a moment, folks. I'm going to take another sip of coffee. And there was this scientist. I forget his name, and forgive me for not remembering 40 years later his name. But he took a miniaturized piece of the things that were holding the solid rocket boosters of the space shuttle together. The two rockets on either side of this orange tank. Amazing that everything orange kind of gets villainized sooner or later. Like they say about Trump, the orange man is bad, and an orange tank was not that wasn't good for the shuttle, and the shuttle had a design flaw in it to begin with because they put the astronauts underneath where everything could go wrong. But he took these miniaturized parts of the O-rings of the space shuttle and he put them in cold water. He took like a cup of cold water and he put these miniaturized O-ring pieces in it, and then in a few minutes, the scientist said that they were just locked. The physics of the O-ring pieces, the miniaturized pieces, had totally changed. And that encapsulated what was wrong with the space shuttle design. And of course, we had another incident with Columbia in 2003, as the piece of the orange tank came down, hit the underbelly of the space shuttle, and then nobody had figured out by that point, and the shuttle had been up 2 weeks. They didn't have a plan to look underneath and see if there was a problem with it. So when they tried to re-enter, the the shuttle fell apart, and that wound up what was happening with it. So what happened with Columbia. So that pretty much answers all the questions that AI most notably had for me. We will come back and do another vlog probably at the end of the week. And grace to you, everybody. And then that's the show that comes on before our show from Church Sermons. Is aired on 990. It's called Grace to You with John MacArthur, and I usually listen to that along with our church's show, which is just old sermons that Doug had done in the past. Bye bye for now, everybody, and we'll catch you sometime close to the weekend. Oh, and we got Life with Ella coming up February 1st, probably releasing that in the afternoon. I'm filming that as the days move onward. So bye bye for now, everybody.